Rob, what is our first main topic today?
Well, John, speaking of Shang-Chi, Alx Kiddo writes in and says, "Hey, John, so looks like Shang-Chi is holding strong at the box office. It only fell 53% in its second weekend, making 35.8 million, which is being reported as the highest grossing second weekend in the pandemic era. With it 10-day domestic total now at 145.6 million. Do you see this movie being the first pandemic era movie to hit 200 million domestic? Thanks, and bring on the filthy." First of all, John, I got to say, I like seeing this. You and I both thought this was a wonderful film. What have you seen it 47 times now?
Still at 6, still just at 6.
It's just it's so much fun. It's such a great time at the movies. I love seeing this happening, and I think absolutely, it might take a couple more weeks. I think this absolutely will be the first movie to hit 200 million domestic. There's just not a whole, if it manages to spend the rest of September making money, I think it can absolutely eke over that 200 million mark. October, however, what a month. There's a lot of competition. Can't wait for October, but I'm stoked for this movie. I'm stoked for everybody that made it. I'm stoked for Marvel. I'm stoked for us fans, and I'm stoked for the character of Shang-Chi himself. The Hollywood Reporter says Shang-Chi now boasts the largest second weekend since the start of the pandemic, besting Black Widow's 25.8 million. In its opening weekend, the Marvel feature grossed a massive 90 million and had the second biggest 3-day debut of the pandemic year so far, coming in behind fellow Marvel Studios pick Black Widow and above Universal's Fast 9. I mean, I think it's no surprise to anyone that we're fans of this. What do you think? Is it going to make more than 200 million?
I don't know. It could. Like the last time I checked, domestically it's sitting at about 145. So it still has 55 million more to go. It just made 35 million in its second weekend. You know that's going to drop to about 20, maybe 18 or 17 next weekend, which would be a very good, healthy drop. It's a perfectly good one. I don't know if it can make 200 million. There's two interesting things here with this, though, Rob. First thing is a not so great thing, which was, there was a projection by Box Office Pro, and we talked about this last week, that Shang-Chi could make $40 million on its second weekend. Now that would have represented, percentage-wise, it would have tied it with Black Panther as the lowest second weekend drop in MCU movie history. Because Black Panther had a 45% second weekend drop. If Shang-Chi had been able to come in around 40, it would have represented somewhere around, like right around that ballpark. It would have gotten it very close into the neighborhood of a 45% drop, would have tied the all-time record. And we talked about that last week. It was not able to do that. Still took a very good, extremely respectable 52% drop, which is fantastic, and made the biggest second weekend box office since 2019. It would, despite the fact that Black Widow made more than it on its first weekend, it didn't matter. We now have, as a second weekend champ at any rate, Shang-Chi made more money on its second weekend than Black Widow made on its second weekend. Now, there's a lot of caveats to that and a lot of circumstances surrounding that, but still, bottom line is it made more money second week than Fast 9 did. It made more money second week than Black Panther than Black Widow did. It made more money its second week than any film since Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker in 2019. So that's obviously a positive thing, and it's very good. But can it hit 200 million domestically? I don't know that it can. And that's okay. It doesn't have to hit 200 million domestically. Like, Rob, right now, Shang-Chi is officially now profitable. At $257 million, it represents, remember, the budget of this film was $150 million. They tacked on what the word I hear going around right now is that it was a $30 million marketing spend, which is not on the higher end for MCU. MCU certainly has spent much more than that before, but the word is about $30 million. So you're looking at about $180 million. You take away about a third So you're taking away about $80 to $90 million from that box office, which stays, of course, with the movie theaters. And you're looking right around that Shang-Chi is in the neighborhood of already having broken even. At this point, moving forward, every dollar that Shang-Chi makes is now profit for Disney. So that's a win right there, especially in the pandemic era, especially coming off the disastrous events of Black Widow and all that kind of stuff. So it's good. It's not as good as it could have been if it could have made that record, Rob. I think it would have been a really neat feather in its cap if Shang-Chi could have come out and said, in the pandemic, we tied for the number one second weekend percentage-wise drop with Black Panther for the all-time best second weekend drop of any Marvel movie in history. That would have been a really cool feather in its cap. Wasn't able to do that, but still very, very respectable. And, you know, I think now Shang-Chi is probably going to come in worldwide. It's probably going to float in around 325 million, 340 million overall, which again, if we weren't living in a pandemic world right now, that wouldn't be all that great. But given the situation we're in, it's pretty remarkable. I don't know, Rob, what do you think the final numbers here are going to be for a Shang-Chi when it's all said and done?
Well, I mean, look, I'm always erring on the side of optimism. I think it will cross over 200 million. I mean, I'd love to see worldwide. I'd love to see the film make 500 million. I don't think it's going to, but I would love to see that happen in this era, because I think the film was a bold move for Marvel, and it was something new, something different. They delved into another genre, which I didn't think they were going to go so heavily into. I think the movie deserves it. I think everybody that worked on it, you know, was swinging for the fences and basically achieved success. But I would like to see, I'd like to see an over $200 million domestic result, and I would like to see 500 million worldwide. Although I think those things are sketchy. You know, they are. I understand that. I can cop to that. But I would love to see that happen, and I would love to see it kill it. Look, this week Black Widow shows up. I get my 4K steelbook of Black Widow to put right up on my Marvel shelf. And I'm hoping that the ancillary markets continue to serve these films well, and they continue to make money. I remain as big a fan of the MCU as I ever have been. I think, you know, Shang-Chi really, to me, was the first, it was the beginning of, other than the series, the shows that we've watched. Shang-Chi ushered in a new era, the fourth, what do you want to call it? I mean, I know phase 4 of the MCU, but it's between Shang-Chi and the Eternals, we're getting something new. And I think it's a bold new direction for the MCU, and I'm excited. I'm really excited.
By the way, I love this graphic that Ray made. I absolutely love this graphic that Ray made. Everybody in the chat is commenting about it. Yeah, Ray, actually, I saw this graphic last night. Ray sent out this graphic, and I looked at that, and I'm like, oh my God, Ray, this is some good work on that. He did a really good job on that. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? I mean, obviously, Shang-Chi has done extremely well financially, especially given the circumstances. It's the biggest second weekend box office haul of any movie since 2019, which is great, not only for Shang-Chi, but for the industry as a whole. How are you guys feeling about that? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts.